A warm greeting. Today is Wednesday, September 24, 2025. This is meteorologist Ruben Garcia speaking. At the time of recording this video, it is 5 p.m. local time in the Northeast Caribbean, where Invest 94 continues bringing heavy showers across the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, and during the next 24 hours over the Dominican Republic. It is anticipated that Invest 94 will continue moving toward the west-northwest, and over the weekend, as it moves across the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas, it could develop into a tropical depression and tropical storm, which, if it forms, would be named Tropical Storm Imelda. So, interests in the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas should be preparing for the effects of a tropical storm. Meanwhile, the 8th tropical storm of the season has just formed, related to what was Invest 93, which is now Tropical Storm Humberto, and it is forecast to strengthen into a Category 2 hurricane and eventually pass very close to the island of Bermuda, possibly as a major hurricane or Category 3. In this morning's video, I mentioned that these systems are relatively close to each other and that over the weekend, as future Hurricane Humberto moves through the southwest Atlantic and when Invest 94 is near or over the Bahamas, they will have an interaction that is very complex to forecast. However, fortunately during today the projections have a clearer idea of what could be the track of Invest 94. Later in the video, I will talk about the rainfall totals expected for Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, the Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos, and also whether there is any risk for the east coast of the United States. But first, let's talk about the forecast for the newly formed Tropical Storm Humberto. In this case, there is good consensus that it will maintain a track toward the northwest and eventually in about 5 days should make a turn toward the north, likely passing to the west of Bermuda. However, this is subject to some changes, and for this reason it is important that Bermuda residents continue paying close attention to updates on Tropical Storm Humberto. Intensity models continue projecting gradual strengthening during the next 4 to 5 days and generally have it as a Category 2 or Category 3 hurricane when it makes its closest approach to Bermuda in about 5 days. As it moves northeastward and passes near Bermuda, it looks like it will begin a weakening process. This coincides with the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center, a northwestward movement during the next several days and possibly reaching hurricane strength between Friday and Saturday. When it is located to the south and southwest of Bermuda, it could be a Category 2 hurricane by Monday afternoon. Outside of Bermuda, Tropical Storm Humberto will not pose a threat to any additional land areas. Now let's talk about Invest 94, which is a strong tropical wave currently over Puerto Rico and has been generating heavy showers during today. Rainfall will continue across the region for at least the next 24 hours, and between today and Friday also affecting the Dominican Republic. This disturbance has still not gained enough organization to be classified as a tropical depression. However, the National Hurricane Center maintains an 80% chance of a tropical depression forming very near or over the Bahamas during the next 5 to 7 days. Looking at the specialized model tracks, all of them show movement over the Dominican Republic. However, I must clarify that it will be as a strong tropical wave and not entering as a tropical depression, much less as a tropical storm. Once it crosses the Dominican Republic and moves over the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas, conditions may become favorable for a tropical depression and possibly Tropical Storm Imelda to form this weekend. At least the good news is that the latest intensity model projections keep the disturbance at tropical storm strength. Still, it is too early to know exactly how strong it could become in the Bahamas. In the short term, Invest 94 will continue bringing heavy showers over Puerto Rico with an additional 2 to 3 inches, and over the eastern half of the Dominican Republic between 75 to 125 millimeters. In the medium and long term, heavier rainfall is anticipated for the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas, where some models such as the European model project accumulations over 200 millimeters during the next 7 days. Now let's look at the most recent global model projections, which already show a clearer picture of Invest 94's possible trajectory. In the case of the midday run of the American model, it strengthens Tropical Storm Humberto into a Category 2 or Category 3 hurricane, and between Sunday and Monday develops perhaps a tropical depression associated with Invest 94. But by early next week, the circulation of future Hurricane Humberto absorbs the circulation of Invest 94, steering it away from the U.S. East Coast but posing a threat to Bermuda. On the other hand, we also have the European model projection. The most notable difference is that it does develop Tropical Storm Imelda over the Bahamas between Sunday and Monday. It also has Hurricane Humberto passing west of Bermuda, and during this interaction brings future Tropical Storm Imelda closer to Bermuda by the middle of next week. So again, the difference between the American and European models is that the American model does not show significant strengthening of Invest 94, but the European model does show a strong tropical storm. However, both agree the track will be over the Bahamas and then move east and northeast, reducing the threat to the U.S. East Coast. The German model also agrees with these projections. It strengthens Tropical Storm Humberto into a hurricane this weekend, and also has a tropical depression or tropical storm associated with Invest 94 over the northern Bahamas, but by midweek it shows the interaction where Hurricane Humberto pushes Imelda northeastward and eastward. This consensus, which currently reduces the risk for the eastern United States, is also seen in the ensemble members. For example, the European ensemble members, although they show a track fairly far west, eventually move the system toward the northeast, though some of them still bring it closer to the coasts of South Carolina and North Carolina. Meanwhile, in the case of the American model, the ensemble members keep Invest 94 rather weak and the majority eventually move it toward the northeast, away from the US, and the Google AI model members, unlike this morning's runs which had some tracks toward Florida, have now adjusted to a track initially over the Bahamas as a tropical storm, and eventually being drawn northeastward by the circulation of future Hurricane Humberto. Still, although less likely, some members continue to show the possibility of it approaching the U.S. East Coast. So, in summary, we already have the 8th cyclone of the season, Tropical Storm Humberto, which will possibly strengthen into a Category 2 or Category 3 hurricane, while Invest 94 will continue bringing heavy showers in the Northeast Caribbean, and eventually move over the Bahamas where it should strengthen into a tropical depression or Tropical Storm Imelda. And although it is still too soon to determine how close or far it might pass from the United States, trends suggest that if it develops over the Bahamas, it would eventually take a track toward the north-northeast. Here at Hurricane Info, I will continue monitoring the evolution of both disturbances and will keep you informed of any changes in the projections. And before I go, I'd like to ask you to like this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe and follow me on YouTube and click the bell so you receive notifications whenever I record new videos. I hope you all have an excellent night. See you tomorrow.